Yep, this is Andrea Hetheru, the 2024 Chair of Chollas Valley Community Planning Group. The purpose of this recorded presentation is to share what informs the content and order on agendas that I create. All things worth doing in any given period of time cannot be done. They must be prioritized. When I become aware of a problem that needs to be solved or anything that can be improved, I prioritize items according to how I believe they will impact equitable development in Chollas Valley as delineated by federal and state affirmatively furthering fair housing law. In this way, we can, in my view, treat the cause of our symptoms and not just address symptoms that would otherwise occur and continue to occur decade after decade. So those are two quotes, one by Spanish philosopher Ortega y Gasset and the other by Jay-Z and the Neptunes. And they are telling us similar things, that we must act forcefully to make the future different than the present or the past. But through that process, our vision becomes the new reality. Since we are a government of, by, and for the people, in my view, we have a duty to support and defend our just laws, not merely abide by them. When those that we have trusted to support and defend them are not doing so adequately, we must do this ourselves as best we can. So we have a duty to support and defend. Since early spring of 2024, CVCPG has been vigorously defending AFFH, but we will need to continue doing so for sure. We will, however, also need to play offense. We must stop incorrect intent from scoring, while we must score with correct intent on this very serious playing field. This is a field of life and death of people now living, as well as those who have not yet been born. We know that we are defending against some things. We know what we're trying to keep out, and that is the concentration of poverty. But how are we supposed to play offense? How are we supposed to support AFFH? In other words, how do we bring in the correct projects? So we are engaging in offense. CVCPG is engaging in the offense, the support of AFFH, when we act as a developer, bringing in the right things as a primary force for capital infrastructure projects, otherwise known as CIP. Those things are built by our government. But we are a government of the people, by the people, and for the people. So we do not need to wait for a CDC, otherwise known as a Community Development Corporation, in order to become a developer. We really are that when we are a primary force for getting things done with capital infrastructure. We are the government as we are the people. Public monies are just as much ours as they are anyone else's in the city. So how are we going to move forward? What's the path? Well, let me just set this out. Choice, we have a lot of choices of things to do. And this is Ortega y Gasset again. Choice is narrowed by ignorance, habit, and poverty. And it is broadened by knowledge, power, and resources. I've been carrying around that quotation by Ortega y Gasset for several decades. The poverty of time narrows choices for our neighbors. Generally speaking, if you don't have a lot of money, you don't have a lot of time. When you got money, you can pay people to do things, and that frees up your time. When you got money, you're more likely to sustain a marriage or to be partnered, and that frees up time to do other things. But we are either adjacent to or in the midst of concentrated poverty. So we should expect that we and or our neighbors have a poverty of not just money, but also of time. And that poverty narrows the choices for our neighbors. We cannot realistically expect to meaningfully engage our residents if we knock on their doors and ask them to choose among 50 plus capital infrastructure projects. That's not doable. We should not expect them to have the bandwidth for that. At the same time, we ourselves should not be constrained by habit, by doing things as we have always been told to do them, and how we have been told to submit CIP priorities has not had the correct outcome. And the correct outcome is the affirmative furtherance of fair housing. So we will have to do the work described by Jay-Z and Ortega y Gasset. We will have to hustle. We must narrow the list that we present to our neighbors down to 3 to 6 options, and then get out on the asphalt and internet streets to actually present our pre-digested options to them. Our neighbors can then choose which projects to support with overwhelming, literally overwhelming pressure. That's the path. We should, in my view, choose 3 to 6 projects according to these 4 criteria. It's up to CVCPG to find and present the right set of choices of projects to the community we serve. The right set of choices. 3 to 6, and in my view, they should have the following criteria, the set of them. They should attract higher income residents. They should excite our current residents. They should include at least one project that could realistically start within the next 12 to 18 months. And they should preserve and restore green spaces and the Chollas Creek watershed. I don't think any one of these things are more important than the other. They're all important. They're important in terms of bringing the type of private investment that we need, the type of attention to public infrastructure that will come with attracting higher income residents. We need to excite our residents because we need them to give us that overwhelming, ourselves, them, that includes us, our community, that overwhelming pressure to move the levers of government. We know what motivates public officials, a certain class of them. So we need our neighbors to be excited. And we need them to maintain that excitement, to maintain that momentum and that sense that they can make a difference, that sense of agency. And that's why we needed to start relatively quickly after our campaign for the projects that they choose starts, or after we get out on the street and ask them to choose between the 3 to 6 projects. One of those projects should start in a relatively quick period of time if we intend to maintain that motivation, that momentum for project number 2, 3, 4, 5, 100. And we need to preserve and restore green spaces. The difference between well-apportioned communities and those that are not can be seen from the air. It's how green it looks and how blue it looks. And this is throughout the country. So while we want to bring in development, we don't want to bring in development that replaces the overall acreage of green spaces with concrete. Everybody deserves to have a healthy environment, and our mental and physical health is enhanced, in fact, is connected to how much blue and green spaces around us. As you can see, this is a one-take deal. And so in pictures, here's the path. You see the CVCPG logo? That must be on our apparel. Somewhere we got to brand what we're doing because we're going to be successful with project number 1. And so when we come back for project number 2, we need to be branded as the people who are successful on getting the project done that our community was excited about. And that's what the shoe and the megaphone is about. We're going to get out there, we're going to knock on the doors of the houses, and we're super, super fortunate that we have an amazing asset that we would be, in my view, really remiss, and I think it would be really bad judgment if we don't use the asset that we have already ready to go. We have Dr. Manuela Ippolito, who has already led marches with students and appeared in several media appearances. And it will be obvious if you listen to her today, if you look at her media appearances, she's not giving up. In addition, at our July 15th, 2024 meeting, principal of the school at which we hold our meetings right here, KIP Preparatory, that principal, Julieta Morales, indicated during that meeting last month that she would like to see her students become involved in the campaign for a skateboard park. Where there are youth, there are families. We hit the schools and knock on doors. We will be successful. So as I've said, we do have to brand ourselves so that we can go forward with projects after the first successful one. So we're out there. Why is it going to be successful? Because we're going to have overwhelming tangible support in the form of paper petitions, online petitions, participation in online surveys that Groundwork San Diego is going to help us with. And we're going to have our neighbors participating in the public discourse at City Council committee meetings, Planning Commission meetings, City Council meetings. If they can't get there, because they're working or for some other limitation, we can have them do a video of themselves, or we can video them, and then we can present that at City Council ourselves. This is something that several organizations have begun to do in San Diego. And, inevitably, there will be our neighbors who will be joining us in person or over Zoom to voice their support, their overwhelming support. We're going to aim for and get input from our community that we haven't seen in a long time, if ever. We really are going to need to meet, and will meet the definition of overwhelming pressure. And when we've done that, when we have moved the levers of government, because it is in their self-interest, after all of this overwhelming, with the definition of overwhelming support, this is what we get. We get an equitably developed Chollas Valley that is beautiful, that is climate friendly, that meets the environmental justice element that the city of San Diego just passed, where we have stormwater infrastructure integrated with our blue and green spaces, where we have state-of-the-art, climate friendly, beautiful parks and playgrounds, where we have eateries that we use as a social hub, and where we attract people from outside of our community as well as dollars inside of our community, and we have inclusive housing with tree canopy. That concludes my presentation. Let's move on with today's agenda.